Hello, fellow Sublime Text fanatics. Welcome to tonight's live stream happening on a Tuesday instead of a Monday. Yesterday, there some stuff came up. If you follow me on Twitter, then you'll see that some of the stuff that I was doing yesterday involved filming for the channel. Some footage that unfortunately, I'm going to have to reshoot because things did not quite go as well as they could have. But we're still working our way through the new workflow for stuff that we're working on. But also, it was July 4th, and I had a couple of other things going on. So apologies. I know I promised that I was totally going to stream on, I believe it was Nala's birthday yesterday. But unfortunately, that was not possible. But we're going to be streaming today, and of course, I'm going to be on tomorrow on Twitch and Friday on Twitch as well. But what we're going to be working on here today is some more of the override audit stuff that we were working on last week. This is what we're going to be working on for the next little bit here. Entirely related to our project to move override audit from Sublime Text 3 to Sublime Text 4 as the base version, changing up the plugin host that it runs in so that we can start taking advantage of the newer version of Python that is available for things, and then starting to take advantage of some of those new APIs. Right now, what we're working on is being able to use the kind information in the quick panels to be able to, when we browse for package resources for the name of a package or for a resource inside of a package, to be able to have kind information associated with them that tells us if something is a normal file or if something is an override, a directory that isn't being navigated, and the type of package that's being developed as well. We've got a nascent version of that running. We're going to want to clean that up a little bit, and we're also working towards getting our that's a little messier than it needs to be. Getting everything that could potentially be browsing for packages to use those package browsers. Because one of the last things that we worked on a ways back was actually implementing the package browsing mechanism, but there was already something in place, and then we sort of went off and started working on other things and stopped working on that. So we're going to finish up that. Once that part's done, the next thing is going to be related to our ability to save and restore overrides, which I think is going to be a pretty popular thing for quite a few people, not the least of which is making it easier to share potential changes with people. We've talked about this previously in other streams, but imagine the idea that instead of giving someone the advice that what they need to do is I got to fix my chat there. I just realized the YouTube chat is not quite busted. So hang on a second while I resolve that. But the I'm just going to, you know what, if I move this over here, then it kind of looks like I'm still looking at the camera, even though I'm not. So we need to edit this and this and this and throw some stuff in here, and life will be good. So let's go. Whoop. And there we go. Now the chat is back to looking the way that it is supposed to. Whoops. I always forget about that. What we were saying there was that imagine the idea that there's a package change that someone is asking about. Wouldn't it? I want CSS code, the CSS auto completion system, to not include spaces when it injects completions for that. And it's totally possible to do that. It requires currently a little bit of an override. So imagine instead of saying what you need to do is use view package file to open that file and then save as it into an appropriate location, or use override on it and open it and say right click on it and pick override this resource. Now go to all of these places and make all of these changes, save the file. If you did it right, it'll work. Imagine if instead someone could create such an override locally for themselves, verify it works, right click, choose pick create patch from a context menu, and then just attach a file and tell someone install override audit. If you're not already using it, choose the apply patch, pick this file. The thing will, it'll just work for you. I mean, that seems like it's super cool. And that's why we want to get working on this, so we can finish on this rather, so we can start working on that. And to that end, let us immediately, if I can find the appropriate context here, let's immediately jump right in and get started on that, because we were working on this a little bit and there's a little bit more that we need to do on it still. So to the coding. Right as rain. We'll click that thing up. So here's what we were working on previously. This is the diff single command. Hang on a second. All right, hopefully that'll be okay. It's a little warm in here. I do need a little bit of air movement going on, and I think I positioned it such that it doesn't interrupt the mic. But if you hear anything, please let me know. So what we were working on last stream was a combination of including kind information in the resource browser, which we got working, and then finding all of the places that were using the resource browser or should have been using the resource browser and plug them in. And there was basically one place that wasn't, which was this override audit diff single command, which is a little more complicated than it needs to be, because it kind of has double duty, if you will. That it can bulk diff a single package or all packages, depending on how you invoke the thing. Selective diff of a single override or a single package, or if you choose bulk, it'll just blap out all of them everywhere. So this was a lot more complicated set of code previously, as we can see in yon diff here. That's not the right commit. Hang tight. It's this one. So this was a lot more complicated than it needed to be, because we were basically re-replicating code that we already had, that knew how to gather the list of overrides and show them to you and wait for one to actually be chosen. The part that we still need to clean up on this, we have to make sure that it'll actually work the way we want it to work, is this bit here, which, like it says here, this is not smart yet. This is just an initial version of this. And that's because the original version of this, if you didn't give it a package, it would ask you for a package, and then it would ask you for the override inside of that thing, and then actually do something. But if you gave it a package, then it would either show you the list of overrides, or if you actually provided it an override, it would just diff that one directly. And that's not something that we have working here, because this was a little bit of a complicated bit of operation near it's at the end of the stream. So we're gonna tweak that up, and then we should be good to go. Also, we're gonna have to cherry pick some stuff, because some of these committed files are in the incorrect locale, if you will. We might want to actually pluck those directly back. because I think now that one just mentions kind information. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I set us up. I knew we were going to potentially give ourselves a conflict. So that part's okay. What we really need to do is this. We kind of did these originally in the opposite order. We added the kind information and then we did this, but I pushed it back the other way because these two commits for using kind information are in the browser panel enhancements branch. We necessarily don't want those in the master right away. We got a little bit more work to do on those, deciding how we want to configure everything and the like. But would be nice to be able to potentially release the other stuff. So we might actually want to do something with that right now. If there's a reason to say, and I don't actually think there is, I think that's why we didn't bother with that in the first place. So let's just go ahead and start taking a look at this. And of course, if you're watching this, if you have any questions whatsoever about anything we're doing here, why we're doing it, why we're not doing something smarter, or any question about Sublime Text or anything really, feel free to drop that in the chat. Don't worry about derailing anything. We are the kings of derailment around here on the ODAT Nerd channel, YouTube channel, and Twitch channel, as a matter of fact. So that is perfectly copacetic. This is, of course, a great time if you have a question about Sublime Text to ask it and get a live answer as well, which also works in my Twitch streams. So this particular command, override audit diff signal, there's a few different ways that we can invoke it. So we're going to need to make sure that all of them still work, because someone could potentially be using this, and we want to make sure that everything's still going to work for them the way that it always did. So if we're supposed to bulk diff and we were given an explicit package, then we can just go ahead. So this is a specific thing here. Maybe we might even want to do something like this and work up potential examples of commands that we might want to invoke here. This is a window command, so we could say window.run command. Well, actually, you know what? Let's just do that, and then it'll actually look the way we want it to look. If there was a window.run command, the command name would be override audit diff single, and it's going to take some arguments. You know what? I had the idea to create a plugin where we could select this and pick run plugin fragment or something, and it would just go ahead and do that. That would be pretty boss, huh? The arguments that this particular command takes are these: package. Yeah, that would be. This is Python code. That would be none. The next one is override, which can be none, and bulk, which can be defaults to false. This last argument, exclude unchanged, is just something that's passed directly through all of these things. This actually be mentioned in here. If you want to exclude unchanged files from the diff, I believe the difference there is, we can actually verify what it actually does. My recollection, these are listed as the defaults, right? I think, oh, we'll just pull it from here because I think we have it in here. Override audit diff single, hang tight. So we go like so, and we'll just grab this out. No, we won't, huh? All right, do that. The list of commands is this one. Diff single override. This particular command here. It's in the command palette, it's in the menu, it's in the context menu. Display a quick panel that lists all packages with at least one simple override, allows you to compare the differences between the base file and your override. When the content of the file is different, blah, blah, blah. You can directly diff a file. The option diff unchanged allows you to specify the result of performing a diff when the override is identical to the underlying file. Right. Okay, so that's right, I forgot about that. So if there is we can actually, probably show that happening. So let's see if we need to create a override report to actually see something that may potentially be different. Let's diff this. That is no differences found. So if we bulk diff the package Python, it's going to say no differences found. So, and I don't know that this is actually going to work because this is the thing we're actually trying to play with. Whoops, that is not the correct page to be looking at. That is the correct page to be looking at. We could do window.run command, and the command would be override audit diff single, and the package to diff is Python. It's going to open it up and say, well, what thing in Python do you actually want to diff, right? If we didn't specify that part when you did it, then it asks you, of all of the packages that currently have at least one override, which one do you want to diff? Then you pick Python and you go to the same thing. And when we do that, we can go back and choose a different package. But if we do it and tell it the name of the file, the package, we can't do that because it knows, we've told it specifically what package we want to diff inside of, and that is this one. And then if I diff that override, it's saying here no changes detected because it knows it doesn't need to display the diff because there's nothing different about this particular file, which is what we just saw there. Now, if we add bulk true to this, that's telling it to bulk diff the entire Python package, if you will. And again, if we did that and we didn't specify the name of the package, then it would ask us, which package do you want to bulk diff? We want to bulk diff the default package. There are two things in the default package that you have done something with: paste from history and replace widget. And we can see exactly what it was that we did to those particular files. So that's what the bulk argument does. Just for our own edification here, if we do this and say exclude unchanged true while bulk diffing a package, and we choose Python, we may need to actually close that file just to make sure that it's going to do what we expect. It's telling us that there are no unmodified resources. This is what that argument actually does here. Now, it's just something that's passed directly through. So you can get it to say, I mean, if we did that same thing again and we chose default, then we get the thing that we would normally have gotten because everything in this thing is something that we have actually touched, right? But here in the Python package, the idea of this particular command is that you would choose it specifically in a case where you only are interested in files that have changed. And if your override is the same as the underlying file, you don't care about it. You only care if things are actually different somehow, which is what that argument is actually for. So that part's cool. So if we were to actually check this, all of the possible permutations of what this should do. If bulk is false, and again, we're going to gloss over this one because it's just an argument that's passed to the diff. The important part that we're trying to pull here is how would it actually try to run this thing? If we just do this, it's going to ask us for a package, and then it's going to ask us for a file, and then do something. And in that particular case, it's going to not bulk diff, so it was asking us for the package, and it was asking us for the file. You know what? Nah, we won't worry about that. If we set this to true, then it's still going to put it in there so it looks the same. It's still going to ask us for the package, but as soon as we pick it, it automatically diffs because we've told it bulk diff. So that also works. If we were to execute this with false and a package, whoops, don't do that, of Python, then it asks us specifically for that. And for our purposes here, we may want to choose a different package here so we can actually see a diff happen. So it's showing us 2 overrides in this particular package. Those are both overrides here. I'm going to potentially display more information in there and make myself really sad. Let's do that one more time. Paste from history.py. If we passed in override paste from history.py, it directly diffs that thing. So that also works. If you give it an override, but you don't give it a package, then it ignores the override. So in this case, we have to pick a package, even if we pick default. Ooh, previously it would have ignored that, but now it doesn't. That's interesting. I actually kind of like that better, to be perfectly honest. Although that behavior is kind of different than what it did before. I would consider that a breaking change or an undocumented change. I don't know. So let's just also trace the logic directly in here. First of all, if we told it that it's bulk diffing and we gave it a package, that's literally the entirety of everything that this thing needs to do something. It just immediately invokes the diff report thing, telling it to diff that particular package, and whether or not it should exclude unchanged files, it depends on the argument that was passed in here. So if you ran this with true, then it would pass in true. Otherwise, it passes in false. So it doesn't even need to do anything. If this is not the case, then there's something that we're going to need to do. As it says here, we're either not bulk diffing or we are, but we don't have a package yet. Either way, what we need to do is do a scan of package resources to figure out the list of packages that might be included for here, but also any overrides inside of them. Now, this could theoretically be a little bit smarter, but we really only have any way of collecting packages that have overrides by scanning them first to see what overrides actually exist. It's kind of the deal here. If we knew ahead of time that there were only 4 packages that contained overrides, then the package list collection thread would be could do like a lot less work. But the only way to determine if overrides exist is to find all of the packages and look at all the contents in all of them to see what's an override. So if it's not a situation we can execute directly, we just immediately jump into this package list collection thread. It's a common bit of code that exists inside of Override Audit that basically in a particular window, because it's running something in the background, as the name suggests, so that it actually puts a spinner in the taskbar, although I think you have to have 200 or 300 packages installed before you even get to see that. This is a message that it displays. This tells it, not only do I want you to get information about the packages, I want you to get information about the overrides too, which is the whole reason for doing this. And also, whenever you've gathered the list of packages, please invoke this callback method, which here we can see the callback gets the thread that actually did something, and we just call loaded and pass it the thread, and then we pass through the package override bulk and exclude, which is all the arguments that are up here. So we capture in the Lambda the invocation of this particular thing and defer it. So basically, these lines are saying continue executing this code once this list of packages is fully collected, is essentially what that's doing. So the magic of this stuff happens inside of loaded, where we gather the list of packages. And again, if we're bulk diffing, the fact that we're inside of this callback means the user didn't give us a package. So we need to browse for a package. So what we do is we create a callback that says, whenever the user chooses a package, please invoke the package pick instance method on this class and give it the package info the person selected and whether or not they should exclude unchanged. And then we start a package browser. A package browser only allows you to browse for packages. We're telling it that inside of this window, display this thing. Please only show packages with overrides. This is the diff, that the placeholder rather, that says what this panel is actually for, which in this case is bulk diff all overrides in, so that it gives you a reminder of why that you ran the command in the first place. Once this thing is all created, we get it to browse directly, and we're passing it the list of packages and the callback. This thing here, you can pass null if you want, in which case it'll gather packages on its own. So this is like a one-stop shop for browsing a package, essentially. But here, we already have that because we need it for other reasons. So we're just passing it in directly, and then this tells it to actually invoke that particular code. If we're not bulk diffing, then we are diffing a single override. In which case we're invoking package resource browser, which I gather is actually smarter than we gave it credit for initially. Because it would appear that if you give it a package, it just automatically knows to use that one. And if you give it an override, it automatically knows to use that. The code that we had in here previously wasn't smart enough to know that. So I think we actually just finished this and made it smarter than we originally intended it to be, all else being equal. We could actually verify that if we look in here. We're storing the package name and the resource. So if we told it to browse, this is the bit where if it has a package list, it does it. Otherwise, it uses the exact same package list collection thread as the other code does to gather it up. So you can just use this directly. But we had other means for actually. Could we actually? Have I said actually enough times? There's really no need for us to do that if we could just do this directly, right? Because if that thing's smart enough to do that, we don't even need to worry about it personally. That's intriguing. Did we ponder that the other day? We probably did. Once that's done, it's going to invoke the start browse directly. Start browse is here. If it got a thread, it uses it. Otherwise, it doesn't. Oh, if there's no package, it does that. Otherwise, it has a package and it lets you pick. Oh, right. So, yeah. And package select is the bit where it actually, I believe, does the other part. It's been so long since I worked on this code. If the resource isn't... Oh, yeah. All right. So, yeah. This is just doing exactly what we want it to. So we can do that. I believe... Oh, you know what? This is probably why we implemented it this way in the first place, because I knew that this is what it was going to be used for. Selective diff of a single override or package based on the provided arguments. So all instances of that are going to do what we want it to do. We just need to... Here, let's do this. Shoot. That's not what I meant to do. Hang on. We want to be on the master branch when we do that. Pardon me. And then we can stage that file and amend the previous commit. And then we're going to leave that for just a second because I believe I don't think there's any reason for us to do that. I think let's test this because this code is totally available in here, right? So let's say instead of doing that, we just grab all of this and go like that, and then go boom, 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 and take this, put it here. We set that to none. Assuming package browser is a smart, which I assume it is. No, it doesn't do that on its own. Only the resource browser does that on its own. Well, that's a bit of a syllogism, but all right. If that's the case, let's leave well enough alone for that, and then we will switch to you and rebase onto here. Yeah, that's quite all right. I'm fairly sure. I'm not interested in that. There we go. Hey, Ashwin, how do? I don't think that. Oh, continue with rebase. Pardon me. What is the good word? I thought that was going to take a lot more stuff to do, but it actually didn't. So, huzzah. Let's quit and restart to make sure that we get the latest, greatest version of that. Cool. I had another thought about this. I can't remember what it was. Rediff single package. It's going to show us that part. So that part's cool. That ship was Sublime. That ship was Sublime. That is installed as a Sublime package file. That tooltip does not work as great as it could. I'm not going to lie. Oh, swelly Swellingtons, I say. I'm a little unhappy. I recorded a bunch of stuff last night, but one of the things that I recorded was a new channel trailer, and something happened. I didn't notice until after it was uploaded, but the source footage had proper audio sync, and the color corrected version had proper audio sync, but when it fell out of the encoder for the final edit, the audio seems to be off to my eye in a way that it isn't in the other one. So I got to try to figure out that, which means all the other stuff I did is kind of suspect. And there's some sort of weird frame rate issue. It seems a little floatier than it should be. Like it's dropping some frames and is getting a little choppy as a result, which is not something that I'm happy about. So I'm not entirely sure what the best fix for that is. I'm going to play with that after the stream and see. I've looked up a little bit of advice in that particular area, but apart from that, life's going pretty well. Okay. This is only showing overrides, which is kind of what one might expect, I suppose. If we say create override, we pick a package, we only ever see not overridden resources. So that works the way that we want it to, as these things go. And if we were to choose open resource, we get to see everything, including potential overrides, like so. I'm trying to decide what characters do we want to use for regular resources, if any. what character do we want to use for overrides? I used an O here for override. Maybe it should be an asterisk or something. Maybe it should be a little caution sign, but I don't know that that is a very common Unicode font character. Maybe they could be configurable. I don't know. It's something that would be fairly easy to tweak up after the fact, though. So I'm kind of okay with sort of just leaving it there, such as it is. So we might just call that good for the time being and merge it back over, and we can work out a configuration for it later or something. The changelog that we have here, package and resource browser has been augmented so that it uses new SE for annotation abilities. Yeah. We kind of hacked a little how it is actually going to work. Not going to lie. I had a couple of different ways to go about doing it, and in the end, I thought, this is the path of least resistance. We tack some crap onto the file name and then fix it up later to figure out what the kind information is supposed to actually be. Oh, did we finished that, right? Yes. It ends up being a folder if the name ends with /. Otherwise, it's a resource. If it ends in annotation, it ends up being an override. And if it's ... it ends up being a folder up. And then it shoots the thing back. Could probably tighten that up a little bit, but I'm okay with that as well. So I think, have we been? Yes, we have. Let's go over to the master branch, and then let's merge in you and say no fast forwards. And get rid of you, because we don't need you any longer. So now we've got a bunch of new stuff in here, and again, I will just quit and restart that, because it's pretty quick to be able to do something like that. All right. So that leaves us with the actual next functionality thing here, which is something that we had worked on previously and got a fair distance down the line. And the last time we worked on it was 2 years ago. So I'm not sure what the best situation here is. I'm thinking that we just rebase this older branch that hasn't been shared with anything on top of master, and then sort of go through it and see if the stuff that's in there still makes any sense at all, or otherwise we just sort of leave well enough alone, and redo it from scratch. Do we want to cherry pick one commit at a time for that? No. I guess that was less scary than it could be. So let's actually go through all of these things one at a time. Let's rename this actually. And then we can do this. That way we can sort of go through the commits one at a time, edit them as we see fit if we think we need to modify anything, and we'll eventually end up with something. Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of one of these. I think I have it in here. Oh, it's not. I don't have it in there. I don't have it in there. Shoot. But something that I've been playing with the last couple of days. We can do that. I think I have the other stuff in there, but it hasn't unlocked yet. The what brain, for example. Which reminds me, I gotta send a message to John and see if he would be okay with me using the Sublime logo as a emote in the channel, because that seems like something someone might want to actually do. But I'm always surprised and a little pleased when a rebase just works the way one wants it to without blowing up in your face, because it doesn't seem like that's how something like that should in fact actually work. Let's close all these files we don't necessarily care about. I guess we need to do that to make sure we're using this version of the package. Oh, actually, could have just done that. Fine. Okay. Implement some cleanup of our syntax. Oh, son of a poop. I forgot we did that. Ugh. Why did we do that? Implement some cleanup of our syntax definitions and include a new one. In particular, the names of existing syntaxes have been modified to better refer to what they are instead of having the generic name override audit. This also includes a general file rename for the diff report syntax, which is the only one of the existing report syntaxes to not follow the proper naming convention. Also added are a new syntax for our diffs and patches. This is currently done via an embed on the built-in diff syntax with a different top-level scope and first-line extension matches. These will be used for some upcoming changes regarding patches. This is why I like creating messages and Git that point this stuff out. Although we didn't say why we thought a diff report should not trim trailing white space on. No, I totally remember that. It has everything to do with how trailing white spaces in diffs is potentially significant. So having the editor blop them out of there is kind of an issue. I think that's why if we look at the diff Sublime settings, it has the exact same thing in there. And to translate tabs to spaces. Does ours have translate tabs to spaces? No. We should totally put that in there. Because similarly, we don't want that to happen here. I'm not sure about the word wrap, but we definitely want something like that as a situation. We have added a it definitely helps. Usually you use things like this to go back through code to find a bug and not to remind yourself of what you did in a stream 2 years ago. But if we look at all of the stuff, this changed from override audit to override audit diff report. And we also want that in there. I would imagine it's going to make this whole thing kind of spoopy, realistically. What do we got here? Output and temporarily make sure that tabs are not expanded, since append will modify them, but they might be important later. Okay, so we set stuff up to force translate, which might not actually be needed, realistically. I remember this whole conversation that we had with Will about this stuff, which is why those settings are now in the core. Diffs show you what used to be there and what is there now. So the act of saving the thing shouldn't cause it to trim away trailing white space, which could actually be significant in a file, because we don't know what sort of file it's modifying. If it was a diff of source code, it probably doesn't matter, but if it's a diff of something else that's text, it might. And in any case, whatever the content of the file that the user specified is, it should be remaining that way. And similarly, translating tabs to spaces, because of course, as you know, if that setting is turned on and you insert some text that is a tab, it'll just convert it. We don't want that to happen either. I also have a big pile of crap documentation as well. Yeah. And we did that for diffs and reports. Okay. Diff reports using its own syntax. No, that's because we renamed the thing. That is named a package report. That is named an override report. This is a new situation. Yeah. So I think anywhere where we're doing the one thing, we should also do translate tabs to spaces. So let's update that here. And we're probably going to cause ourselves no end of conflicts because we probably tweak this up further down the line, but I don't necessarily intend to keep all of these 2-year-old commits either. So I'm going to stage that and amend the previous commit. And we're going to end ourselves up in a little bit of a pile of hurt here, if you will. Because now every time we do one of these things, we need to do this. Oh, can we actually even just read base on top of that? Yeah, we can because of the way that we set this up, right? Here, if we do this, then our branch is master, and then additions and cleanups. This branch used to have an additions of cleanup. Oh, crap. How unhappy are we going to be with this rebase? Because maybe I should not have done that. We always want it to be there. Okay, that's not so bad. Now we move this branch specifically forward to here. This adds a new stub command that will be responsible for triggering the creation of a new patch, as well as a context-sensitive version that's enabled in reports, overrides, and override diffs. This is also available in the main menu and the command palette. Still to do with having the command prompt you for missing arguments in an interactive fashion and actually create the patch. Oh, hey. Oh, that was Sublime complaining about that. Because the files that it was diffing were live. So it couldn't parse them appropriately because it had the conflict markers in them. But then after we staged them all up, everything was kosher. You can really do yourself a disservice having your package enabled while you do that sort of thing. I will admit. So what we have is a new command for create patch. We should take a note of what we're actually doing here. New command. Override, audit, create, patch. There's two versions of it in the command palette, one that's named create patch for a package and one that's named create package for a single file, and the difference is whether or not you specify package only as true or false. Also, there's a context sensitive version of it in the context menu, which is not always visible, and presumably it's smart enough to know to do something. And in the main menu, we added some new menu entries as well, along with some separators to make things look a little bit nicer. Tab context menu needs to have the exact same command in a couple of different places. Oh, this is the actual command itself being included. That part's good. I haven't really done too much with Obsidian. I still have a tab open from the other day. It seemed like a fun thing to play with. Ironically, the thing that turned me off about Obsidian was the first thing it said was, your data on your system, never in the cloud. Never worry about anybody peeking at it. And I was like, oh, but I kind of want my files in the cloud because sometimes I work here and sometimes I work out there and I want them to go. And then the next thing I saw was the thing on the Obsidian page that said, hey, would you like to have your files sync? Give us $10 a month and we could sync it if you like. I'm like, oh, what? That seems kind of funky. But as far as Notion, that's pretty boss. If you've never played with it, I would definitely recommend giving it a try. But I presume you probably have. I think I've really only scratched the surface of what can be done with that. I need to do a little bit more. But I'm liking, especially one of the things that I like about it is I have it on my phone. So while I'm walking around, if I come up with a video idea or a note I want to take, I can very easily just cram it in there. And I have, like, you can sort of see, I have a bunch of crap on the phone that allows me to do that. You can't really see it, but that's okay because it's not really that exciting in the grand scheme of things. But being able to do something with that while I'm out and about is one of the main things that I wanted something like this for, which I don't know that Obsidian does if I don't give them money. So that kind of put the kibosh on that. I know you can use Dropbox to sync stuff, but trying to get Dropbox to sync stuff from my phone, poop, I say. Hey, Nala, hello. Welcome. Sorry I broke my promise about streaming yesterday, but some stuff came up. So that's why we're here now instead of then. But no time like the present. How do? Yeah, I think my problem with it is it's local. I mean, I don't begrudge anybody for having a product that costs money, obviously, because they use Sublime Merge and Sublime Text, but the price of Obsidian syncing notes around to multiple systems is a little high for me, considering the expenditure that I already have for a different syncing service. It's kind of giving me pause. You know, it's kind of like I have Netflix, so I don't also have Peacock and Hulu and Crave and HBO and Disney Plus, because I already have a streaming service. It doesn't seem right to pay just as much for another one just to do one thing. Well, I mean, I also kind of figured, besides anything else that came up, that nobody would be around to watch because it's, you know, the official try to blow your fingers off your hands day for a large part of the audience. But when perhaps we can get you a cake, or at least a cupcake. You know, I'm kind of cheesed that I can't join my own channel, or I have to join my own channel as a member to get I mean, I have access to my emotes, but I don't have a loyalty badge next to myself. I think I would have to pay to get that. It seems weird. Also, I'm a little cheesed that YouTube said that membership gifting was enabled for everybody, but what they meant was they were slowly working on whatever they need to do to all of the channels to make that happen. It's clearly more complicated than I would have given it credit for. Because I was going to do a thing where I was like, hey, everybody, if you're following me, go to this thing and choose enable. I want to have gifts on the channel because we're just going to gift out a bunch of them to unlock more emote slots and the like. But I have to wait for that to actually happen. Create patch, create patch, create patch. All right. I think this is context create patch here. Let's take a look at what we actually got going on in this particular commit here, because I'm a little. So open U and open U, so we can look at those files. So we know we added it to the command palette. We know we added it to the context menu. We know we added it to the main menu. We know we added it to the tab context menu. We know we added 2 files, so we need to make sure that we pass them out. And similarly here, we need to import them, pass them through, and make sure we grab the symbols to actually reload them so that when the package reloads, the command reloads, because that'll cause you no end of problems. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Ashwin. Always a pleasure, as you know. And then those create context, that, and fun. This could be refactored to use package resource browser. Oh, you mean like that? Yeah, it could. So I guess we need to remove that to do from that particular file, and then we'll stage that and amend that commit. Okay, we're gonna make ourselves unhappy again here. Get ready for a surprise. The same commit appears twice. That's fun. The only difference between that and that is that. So we actually don't even need this commit anymore. So it just goes from there to there. Cool. That hands out. Whoa. Welcome, Nala. You're the first official person to do that, apart from my wife. And technically I did it for her because I wanted to see what was going on there. Thank you so much for the support. I wasn't angling for that, by the way. It just occurred to me that one of the things that I expect to see next to my name is the brain, and I don't see it when I say stuff, and it's weird. It's weird. So did you have a good birthday? Did you? I guess if everybody canceled, well, you said everybody that you watch canceled on you, right? Everyone I regularly watch canceled on your birthday. All right. Yeah. It's all a scam in order to get emotes. Basically, is what I wanted over here. Especially since I get a 70-30 split of everything here. So if people want to use emotes, I get a little bit more from that. But I just wanted to use them myself, and I have a plan to create a bot, and I want the bot to be able to use emotes. So now we just need to get more people to do it, because I think the next spot doesn't unlock until I get a 3rd person. I was gonna just gift out a bunch, because I'm gonna get 70% of it back anyway, but Google in their infinite wisdom makes that very tricky and difficult to do. Yeah, we don't care about you. This is using package resource browser. Oh, son of a. All right. So we need to actually tweak this commit up as well. That irony was not lost on me. Also, 99 cents is the cheapest that you can have a level. So that's why I went for that part there. Basically, I have a fair number of people that ask if there's a way that they can support me, and I figure like $1 a month is way cheaper for people that normally do like a sticker for $10 or something. And as an added benefit, we get to have little brains next to things. I think you can also use them in the comment section on videos as well. I've been told. Does this actually even do anything? Override audit, create override patch. It's going to select a okay. We choose default, we choose that, and we end up essentially with a diff. All right. And if we create a patch for a package, we end up with that. All right. And I believe these would have been set. Now you see the insidiousness of it. The fun thing is when I gift them out, I have to gift them out at $4.99 because the gifting mechanism. I don't know. You may or may not be familiar with this, in which case I'm probably just, yakking to the choir here. But you have to gift in groups of 5, 10, or 20, and it picks the highest price level at $5 or below to do it. So even though there's a level for 99 cents, if I wanted to give out 5 of them, it would cost me $25 and not $5. I don't understand their logic there. I think they also have it set up, unless they've redacted it, that you can't gift a membership on a channel unless you also have a membership. I don't. Is there a problem on Twitch with people spite gifting subs? It seems very weird to me. All right. That's actually kind of clever. Is this as cool as it could be? Did we do... Oh, I gotta stop doing that. There we go. Oh, you know what? There's some stuff here that might be cooler now than it was 2 years ago because there's more functionality in Sublime than there used to be for choosing the locations of things. I think actually that might have been sort of around this time, but I don't know if we actually put it in here or not. So the two things we're looking at are those. So the important command is this one, which we have to use a package collection thread for because of the oversight that package browser won't look up packages, only package resource browser will, which seems like a little bit of a funky oversight on my part as these things go. So when you run the command, it fetches the list of packages, and then when it's done, it does that. Exactly the same thing as we had previously. Grab the thing. If package is not none and package isn't in the package list, it'll complain about it, including into a dialog. Oh, that might actually be part of the stuff that was missing from one of the other commands. But won't worry about that at the moment. I think one of these ones in here. When we fiddled with this file here, when we fiddled with this file here, we fiddled with it somewhere. Oh, sorry. Yeah, down here. We can add placeholders to this thing as well. But in the create thing here, that diff single file that we just finished refactoring earlier on in the stream, this could display an error saying that there is no such package, but I think that already happens, and this is kind of a different operation than that, so that's probably all for the best. So it'll create the patch either for the package or for the package and the override, depending. If it's package only and you have a package, it's going to do it. If it's not package only, if not package only and package and override are not none, it has everything it needs. That's a clever Pythonism. Otherwise, it needs to gather the packages with overrides. Make sure that they're not disabled, and then browse out to see. So if it's only a package, it uses a package browser. Otherwise, it uses a package resource browser. Either way, it invokes create patch and either gives it the name of the package or the name of the package and the name of the resource. And create package is this thing up here. If it's none, then it's going to be all of the files. Otherwise, it's going to be a single file. And then we say we're patching. We don't actually do anything with it. What branch am I in right now? I'm in that branch. Oh, okay. So, yeah. If I do create patch single file and pick that, then it says what it's doing. The reason it was actually showing us a diff before is because we were on the other branch where all of that functionality had actually been previously implemented. So this is telling us that right now it's patching in default only with that one file. And if we did a create patch for a package and picked default, then, oh, it gets all mad about that. That's interesting. Oh my. Here, let's make sure that that is as kosher as it can be, because we've screwed around with a fair bit of stuff here. Okay. Create a patch for a package. It's going to show the package, and oh, why is it mad? What did I do? I wonder if it was broken on purpose. No, because it's happening inside of there. Single file default. That's the single thing. So how far into this did it get? In create patch at line 47, which is this. Oh. That is an interesting bit of bonage. That's what that is. We just expect it to be the name, don't we? If we do it for package and override, then it uses, or not for package only. Then after it gathers it, it comes in here. It's not going to say that because we didn't pass it. It's not going to do any of that because it doesn't have that information. It gets the list of packages with overrides. Sets up a filter to throw away any that are currently disabled. Package only is set, so it invokes this and calls create package with that value. On the other hand, if we told it not package only, then instead of doing that, it does this. It's only going to allow you to pick an override. It's going to allow you to pick an unknown file. It's still going to filter. And when it's done, it calls create patch with the package that was given there. I think my problem is this actually does this. So if we create, let's do this. OACP, create patch for a package. Still remembers that from 2 years ago. We pick default, then it tells us that it's patching in the package named default, and there's 2 files that it's actively patching. Okay. Cool. Doesn't necessarily do anything interesting as of yet, but that's kind of how that series of commits was intended to work. And the context version of this command for that, we're going to need a package report. Create override in default bulk diff. Was I expecting that to actually do anything here? Or no, is the question of the hour. Create override. Am I getting errors in the console? No. Alright, something weird's going on with that. What have we done? Is there a commit after this one that says that it's... No. No, it doesn't. So we expect this to actually do something. So the context menu is going to say override audit context create patch. Yeah, which is this. If always visible, it's not always visible, I would imagine. There, it's happening all a bunch in there, and here, gotta clear the console to see. Oh, because it's not. Oh, ha 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 ha. Yeah, that makes sense. It's in the wrong context menu now, I think, is the issue. This has our own context menu. I think that's different than what we have set in there. I think that's why that's happening. At what point did we make that change? Why would we want it to be in here is the question of the hour. Hang on a second. Is this file even used by anything anymore? Why would this even be here? Oh, some of it has to be here. Yeah. That's not one of them, though. Oh, actually, that's not true. That does need to be there. Ah, okay. I think we want that also in this. Is it in here? I remember what we're doing here now. Patches and this menu didn't exist back when we worked on this initial change. We want it to be here. The main context menu only happens in regular files. It's the only time anything appears in there. This other one is for doing things in reports. We change the context menu. So you might note that in this particular file, there's all kinds of stuff in here because this is just a file I'm editing. So there's all kinds of things that I might be interested in doing in here. But inside of a report, for example, then that is a constrained list of stuff that needs to be there. Now we can see that in there, and it needs to have a different name. So that's interesting as well. We need to tweak that up. We might actually bump that around or something. The reason why we want to have that is because if you did something like open resource and the resource that you opened wasn't an override, then there wants to be an item in here that could potentially tell you to create an override out of it, in theory. This one is already an override, which is why that doesn't actually work. But let's say we open a resource from this. That's something we haven't screwed around with, like the default macOS Sublime mouse map. Pardon me. The way that I'm actually doing that. Yeah. Okay. Forgot how my own package works. Default Sublime command. So this is something that is not something we can edit. So as a result, there's an option in here for override this resource if you wanted to. Boop. And then in theory, we could modify it and save it and it'll become an override. So some commands need to exist in there. And one of the reasons why we might want that to be the case is if we to view package file for the default paste from history. This is something that's actually an override, which is why that's showing that. And I might want to create patch 4 from this. So that's why this command has to appear in both of those menus. It just so happens that this menu didn't previously exist, which is why that's there. So now the one thing that we need to sort of play with here for just a second, those commands always have all of that nonsense in them. Create override in bulk diff package. What's an example of a command in the in this report one that might also exist in the other one? Because the description method needs to be smart enough to display the right thing, essentially, is what we're dealing with here. Let's move that down. We want this to just say create patch 4 and not override audit create patch 4. I can't remember exactly how it was that we did that. Here we want that. There we don't. So let's put that down there so we can test both of those situations. Revert might be a situation. That is revert this override. And if we had an override report down here, then if we right click on that, it would just say revert. So let's see where the revert command lives. And we care about not that. Pardon me, you. I guess we want something similar to that for this one. So let's see. That's good. That part's good. We just need to tweak this somewhat. Whoops. Context create patch. Pardon me. Now we know why that's happening. We can get rid of those. And this is how it should work now. Create a patch for this override, or we'll call this patch override. We sort of change the style of that a little bit, I guess. Whoops. With that whole self.caption method. All right. So, down here, son of a poop. All right, I guess that needs to be a little smarter than that. Patch override. Create patch 4. In what situation is that going to happen? Inside of this file, that one. Diff this override, revert this, create a patch for this override. So that part works. Oh, I just said revert override and we swapped it. Should say something that looks like that is what it should say. So in here, override audit, create a patch for this override is what we want. From here, override audit, create a patch for this override is what we want. And if we did it, it should say paste from history. If it actually worked, which apparently we've kind of corked it for the time being. Create patch 4. Oh, right. For. Oh, we create override in. I've forgotten how clever our code is here. Choosing it from the menu passes it the wrong argument, so that's kind of unfortunate. That's nothing to worry about at the moment. So if we did it here, we need to see what create override is doing. create override command, its version of this description method. Oh, it doesn't have one. Oh, right. Right. Context create override. Should have a description method. That's interesting. How did we... Okay, we don't care about you for the time being. What we care about is this guy right here. That part we want because that part actually does what we expect. If the reason that the place that this came from is settings, create a patch for this override. Return self.caption this. Boop. Create patch for self.package, and it'll be done. Otherwise, it should just do that, I would imagine. Let's just leave that for the time being. So, in a report, we right click and it blows up real good. Oh, right. Where do we, oh. Where the hell does self.package come from in this thing? Context helper, Sublime Text. Yeah, well, that's right. Create a patch for this override. That part works. That part doesn't. It's going to be broken the same way, right? Because we need to invoke. Check the context of the command to see if it's being triggered on the package only, which should contain overrides. If so, store the name in the tracking variable and return it. Otherwise, reset the tracking variable. Ah, it's set in that thing. I see. Okay, so let's just sort of compare as we dare between these two situations, because this doesn't have a get context. And I don't even know why it necessarily needs to. Why did I do that? Oh, I guess we want context.package or something. Yeah, all right. In this particular instance. because that's the context of the command. Theoretically. In a report, create patch for default, and it gets mad about it, but it displays the right thing. So that's the first step. That is create patch for default. If we were inside of here, we could do it on there and create patch for default, or we could create, oh, that part's not quite right. Yeah, this one's a real sticky wicket. That's what this is. I guess I have no choice but to actually understand what this code is doing. All right. Here, let's do this. Let's just print that before we do absolutely anything else here. And then we can see that if we do it on a package, the command context with a package default, no override, it's not a diff, and it is from the context. And that's why that one does what we want. Inside of an actual file, if we do it, the command context is default. The override actually has the override name in it, and it comes from settings. Settings means that this is a file that's open, essentially. There's a setting behind the scenes that says what package this is from and that it's an override. And in this particular case, that it's not a diff, which is why it says create a thing for this override. If we diffed this thing and came down to here, and then did the same thing, we get the exact same stuff, only now it's a diff because it knows that this is a diff. Those settings are also used to be able to flip back and forth between these two files. If we do Alt-O, the view swaps back and forth between two files and rediffs as we go. So that part's all cool. If we do it on a package, that does what we want. And if we do it on not a package, it still says the same thing because it knows about that. So here's what we do. If it's settings, it says create a patch for this override. If what's the has target business of this situation? Let's just get rid of that and we'll do our own thing here. Oh wait, let's bring that back. What does this do? Return none if not self packets. Okay. If it has a target, then it says it's going to say create a patch for override. If it doesn't, it's going to do this. So I think that's where we want this. We didn't actually care about that. Or that. So we get the context that the thing is actually running inside of. If it comes from settings, it means we right-clicked inside of a file or inside of a diff of a file that was an override. In that case, we just say create a patch. Doesn't matter if it's a diff, doesn't matter if it's a file. That's just what the caption is going to be. Otherwise, we're going to say create a patch for as a stub. If it has a complete target, it's going to say create a patch for and the name of the override. Otherwise, it's going to say create patch for. Oh, this one can just actually be stub, I guess. And if that works, then we can tweak that up just a little bit more as well. Okay, so in a report, that's bulk diff package. That's create patch for default. That's what we expect. In an override report, create patch for default, create patch for paste from history. Okay. I guess we should say something a little bit different there, but we won't worry about that. And if we're inside of the file, it's going to say override audit, create patch for this override. And if we're inside of the diff, it's going to say the exact same thing. So that part's all cool. So if we do this, that's going to get pissed off because get context doesn't return the right stuff, which is interesting. Why does that not work now? Oh, because of that. It's returning 4 things and not 3 things. Smooth. It's returning the context, the report type, if it's a package diff, and the view. Or why is it returning the view? That's intriguing. I can't imagine why I would have done that. I'm assuming because if you do it from a tab context menu, you get a slightly different thing. The problem is here for our purposes here, let's just do that. So if I do it from here. Oh, right, because that part needs it. All right, so let's put that back. Wait, why does that need it? Oh, because is enabled uses it. Okay. Well, the other expedient is to just use the value. I'm not sure why we would. Oh, when we were testing it before, we were testing it from the command palette. That's why I'm curious why we're suddenly seeing issues here. Okay, so create patch for default. It is patching in default, and it's finding all of the files. There's one extra one now because I accidentally created an override. I didn't mean to, so whoops. But that'll work. Okay, inside of the file, if we create patch for this override, it's doing default and paste from history because that's the file. And similarly here, it's doing the same thing. So that's what we expect. Inside of the override report, if we do it on the package name, whoops, and I picked the right one, create patch for bunk, it's doing a patch for the whole package, which is what we expect. If we did something like just this one, create patch for add line before, it's patching in default add line before, which is all cool. So now this is the part where this starts to go all tits up on us here. If I right click it here and choose, oh, it doesn't even actually even do anything. That's interesting. It does there. Oh, none of them enable themselves in that case. Oh, there we go. Create a patch for this override. Where the deal is we have override audit override report picked here. And if I right click on this one and choose create a patch for this override, it chooses the correct file. So that's cool. I'm not entirely sure how it manages to do that, but it does. What if I do this? That still works. It's pretty boss. Oh, because it's getting the thing from there in this window. Right. We don't care about the view there. We just need to actually grab it. So in that case, we would just do that. We need it for the other part, but we don't necessarily need it for this part. So we call get context here. This thing is going to return something including a view. And is that going to be used anywhere? It's going to be used in is enabled, theoretically. Because we need to get the settings of the actual thing to know what to do with it. Okay, so that is a good first start on one of these things. Let's do that. Get that part going. All right. In as much as this doesn't actually have to do anything, use report settings in a report to know if a file has an unpacked folder and disable if it doesn't. What are we thinking about there? I'm not sure why that to do is actually there. Oh yeah, we can specifically create a patch for something that doesn't necessarily exist because it would just show it being added in theory. All right. I think we're okay with that. We probably want to fix this. The fact that we're stubbing that in a different way. Because that looks kind of dumb. Target equals CTX override if CTX dot has target, else CTX dot package. And then instead of doing that, we do this. And there doesn't have to be two of them, and it doesn't need to be a return. And if that's the case, this doesn't need to be here either. This can just be this. If there's a full target, the otherwise, the context is purely the name of a package instead, is the theory. Okay. So just generally speaking, it doesn't just, do squat per se. But when it thinks it needs to do something, that's a bulk diff in default. That's a create patch for default. That's a create patch for paste from history. The only thing that we fiddled with is the description, so we don't need to worry about any of that other stuff. So that part's all kosher. Now, how to know if this command is actually enabled? Figure out the context, what kind of report it is, if it's a package diff or not. If it has a target, then yes, because it contains an override. So that's one of these things here. When the context has a target, it knows specifically about the name of a package and the name of an override, which happens in a case like this. It happens in a case when we right-click on one of those as well. It doesn't have a target if you do it just on a package, because that's not a completely addressable override, if that makes any sense. So if we know a package and we know an override, this is definitely something that's enabled. Otherwise, we enable it for a package if it's possible for it to contain overrides. I think we actually are use the report settings in a report to know if a file has an unpacked folder. We get the name of the package. We check the settings for the target view, which would be a report, if there is one. Get the list of packages out of it, and if we have found the appropriate package, the command can only be enabled if it's shipped or installed or unpacked. Which means essentially that since this C# package only has shipped files, then it doesn't have an item for creating a patch, because there's no way for this thing to actually have any overrides in it. And an example of channel repository tools is installed only. It can't possibly contain any overrides. So you can create one, but you can't create a patch for it because there's nothing for it to patch. But if there is an unpacked folder, still no, only an unpacked folder. What there needs to be is a combination of shipped and unpacked, like this, or installed and unpacked, like this one. In that case, those are the only cases where an override can actually exist, and you can only create a patch if you can actually have an override present to create a patch for, right? Makes sense. So it only works if it's shipped or installed and it's unpacked. So this comment actually doesn't even need to be there because we actually did it. So, and as far as that's concerned, all of this stuff does what we expect it to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to this says it adds a new stub command that will be responsible creating a new patch, as well as a context-sensitive version that's enabled in reports, overrides, and override diffs. Okay, so that sets all of that stuff up, and we cleaned this up a little bit. We modified this thing to actually work, because I think we changed what the package browser does between those builds. Oh, there's one more thing that we need to fiddle with here, but we'll worry about that in just a second. We needed to add this to the report menu because we need to create a patch from a report, and reports have their own custom context menu because most of the things in the context menu don't have any bearing on anything in a package. And then here we need to make sure we capture that. We change the description to be appropriate and fix that comment. So let's just amend that. And then the last thing that we need to do something with here, which would not be the context create, but it would just be the create patch command. Because one of the things we added in here was these. So we'll just stick that there. On Lambda, and this could say package placeholder equals create a patch for all overrides in package, and this one is where both of these come from. That one needs to be indented, and this one doesn't. So the gist of that is that if we do the one for creating a patch for a package, oh, Nike, I put that in the wrong spot. Whoopsie. That should go in here. Because it's part of the package browser constructor. And I think we can do that. Donk. No, huh? How was I doing that before? Oh, I was probably doing that before. Now we gotta quit and restart or it won't work. Okay. Cool. And we did it correctly here. So if we create patch for a package, it's gonna still blow up in our face. Why? Oh, Stoopnagel. Just called placeholder for that one. Create patch for a package. Says create a patch for all overrides in package outliner. Boom, and there's the two files. Or if we say create patch for a single file, that's going to say create a patch for an override in package default, create patch for override, add line before. Boop, and it thinks that. So cool. That's a little something we added recently, which is why we're tacking it in here. We'll just stage that and amend the previous commit. Now things are going to get a little spoopy as we rebase onto here. Rebase patch files org onto patch files. And oh, look at that, a conflict. That's fun. Dunk. We definitely need you because that's the bug fix we added. And we this is definitely the appropriate part of that. And we don't want that comment. So I think this is going to end up sort of just redacting this whole commit, to be perfectly honest. And we need to resolve this one because we added placeholder stuff into this thing. Previously we were calling package browser for self window with the filter and the undone. Oh, and also we fixed that as well. That was the wrong thing being passed there in a silly fashion. So we want to keep that, and we want to keep that. And then we can go book and continue rebase. But this is going to happen a bunch, I would imagine. We're going to really piss ourselves off with this bit of nonsense right here. Is that the only... We may need to punt on this one and gather those changes in a different fashion. So let's see. We bring in, this is what we have. That's what the other commit that we're trying to merge in has. So we added that. We changed the comment. We changed what the run does. we changed what the loaded does. The conflict is here. So that was still calling window. It needs to call make patch instead. So let's see. Previously, we're calling browse on the package list, undone, create patch. For some reason, instead of calling create patch, we've moved it down here. That's handy. Oh, because it actually needs to do some crap. So we probably shouldn't have done that, all else being equal. If we put these in the other order, it would be easier to see what it is that's actually happening here. So let's see. Can I open this in the editor? No, I can't, because it would totally be all conflicted. Here, we're going to call make patch with the patch. Oh. Here's what we're going to do. The thing that makes this one conflict is this call right here, realistically. We want that, but we want what the lambda does to invoke this instead of that. And when it comes to this one, all right. This undone is going to be make patch. It's going to be that as the lambda. So let's bring this part over and say that the thing that we're going to do with it, whoops, is instead of that, going to be this. Dunk. And then we also need to put this part in here. So when we call make patch, it does the actual work. That seems like it's what we want. It's a good thing that we're dealing with all of this stuff anyhow. Oh, check it out. We actually kind of made that smarter later. We came up with a different way to do the same thing. The stub is create patch. There's the underscore that we stuck on there in the prior location. And then we say if context, if it has a target or it's a package only or it's a package diff, then it's create patch for and something, and if it's the override if it has a target, and it's else context package or R type. Oh. Well, you know what? Since we previously worked that out to be smarter, let's allow that part in here, and we can worry about it as we get to that point. Okay. So now we go back to here, set up for new patch. Okay. That seems to be everything that we want it to be, because that's the stuff that we just finished playing with, adding all of that brand new stuff and fixing all of that stuff as well. Next is this one, so let's just that's not what I meant to pick. A bit of that. So now we're on this one. In our current design for the patch feature, it will be possible for a patch to contain a binary file, for example, a theme. In such a case, we need to create a sidecar file, a simple zip along a text. Well, I don't think we actually want to do that, so we might blow this part away. For this initial version, we will instead have a default path configured for saving the patch. Yeah, I don't think we actually want to do this. When using the patch creation commands, this specifies the location where patch files should be created by default. That's not how we're actually going to do it, so let's not and say that we did. And then the rest of this stuff might just sort of break as a result of that. But we don't want that. And I bet you we probably removed it at some point as well. Oh, hey, check it out. Here's the thing where we actually cleared that up a little bit. We could just squash that back the other way, and it would probably work just as good. I'm going to say, for the purposes of patch files, we don't actually want this commit, because default patch path isn't something that we're actually going to end up using. And just for gigs, let's check out that version and look for that. The only place that it appears, oh, trying to situate how or why we actually need this, to be perfectly honest. What do we want to do about that? Just to make sure that everything's still kosher, if we do that and restart everything, that didn't generate any errors of any sort. We say we want to create a patch for a whole package, and see, I think we changed up how we were going to do this. Initially, it was going to try to create a binary file off to the side, but I don't think we do that anymore. Instead, everything is going to end up in the single patch file, which you could just save and put wherever you want. So that setting is actually not needed for anything, I think. So just to double check that, let's go to the packages directory and copy from user to default, like so. And then if we said we wanted to create a patch for a package and we chose default, we end up with a binary file in the same format that Git uses to create patches. So we can include binary files directly inside of this, and then we could just save this and get the thing back later. So I'm going to say we don't care about that setting. If we need it, we can always bring it back. But otherwise, I don't really care about it. Check it out. You want to just ship around a binary file? You can totally do that too, if you like. We may want to create something that gzips this up to make it easier to pass around or something, but that's neither here nor there. So what we're going to do in that case is, now that we're on patchfiles.org, include, oh, crap. We're going to go to here. We're going to reset to that commit while we're in patch files. And then we're going to switch back to patch files org, and we're going to drop this commit out. Actually, I guess we probably should have did that the other way, huh? I don't think we want this. I remember being unhappy about it after the fact as well. Oh, but we did. We did miss something here, huh? There's a file called, oh. All right, well, we're going to drop it, and if we have to bring it back, we'll bring it back. But in my current design for this, we don't actually want that, so I don't care about it anymore. So we're going to drop this commit right on out of here. Get ourselves quite unhappy. So we actually want this version of the thing. I bet you there's, yeah, see, there's the functionality for the stuff that we blomped out of here. So we want to keep that anyway. And it all just kind of works out anyhow. Then we go to original patch files. In this particular version of this file also should not, this commit should also not exist. And we want this file. And we can, and then we can rebase onto there, put our flow back in. This is a real masterclass in rewriting an old history to make things a little bit clearer, I think. This is just basic patch creation implementation. So let's go into the editor. Let's make sure that we reload that. Now, is this stuff that we've added in this file ever actually used? What's patch path used for? The location to put stuff in. Oh. All right. Well, I guess that actually makes sense. Oh crap! The stream end time has finished. Yeah. So we're gonna continue this up. Basically, we got a couple of more of these things to go through, but the stream time has ended. So what we're gonna do is I'll pop on over here to say that we are going to continue on this work next week. As you saw, there's a couple of more commits that we want to be able to play with there in order to get basically our patch implementation back up to what we had it as previously. And the last time we worked on this stuff was a couple of years ago. We basically had something that could generate the patch but not necessarily apply it, and that's going to be an interesting conundrum in and of itself. But that's something we're going to deal with in the next stream, next Monday, as a matter of fact. And it probably behooves me to say, I didn't mention this previously, but I'm thinking of changing the name of the stream from from Sublime Text Live to Sublime Text After Hours or something, and starting a whole new playlist where we actually try to be a little bit more precise about what's actually going on to make these things easier to search later on. I don't want to go through the last 130 whatever, 128 of these things. So we'll see what happens there. Thanks to everybody who watched. Nala, thank you so much for being the first official member of the channel. Thank you for that 69 cents. We'll see you next Monday right here on the channel. If you want to see more coding streams, you can follow me on Twitch, link down in the description. We're going to be live there tomorrow and on Wednesday, where you watch me work on a different project, but still in Sublime, still using Sublime Merge, and I will still answer any of your questions. Until then, I hope you please have a Sublime week. And good night, everybody.